We continue our story the next morning, as Goh has been calling anyone he can think of that could tell him what the thing he found is. Asahi informs him that it's a wishing star, saying that's what each member of Project Mew who can use Dynamax was able to find at one time. She says that Professor Magnolia has been researching them for years, but still their connection to the Dynamax phenomenon is strange and unknown. Goh asks if this means he'll be able to Dynamax his Pokemon, but Asahi explains that the wishing star needed to be turned into the Dynamax band first, similar to the ones she had as well as Ash. She does tell him that he could send the wishing piece to Professor Magnolia in order to get it fashioned into one. Otherwise, his only other option would be to send it to Macrocosmos, which she didn't recommend as she's mostly heard bad things from Peony about the place. Confused but compliant, Goh says he'll call Sonia and let her know he was sending it her way. Asahi asks Goh where he's at, to which he explains that he's been training at the Isle of Armor. That's when Asahi informs him she's heard a strange rumor of a legendary Pokemon around those parts. It was a powerful Pokemon that some said could destroy anything in a single blow, and some say attacked with ferocity of crashing waves. Asahi tells Goh if he manages to locate that Pokemon, he'll gain some Project Mew medals as a reward. Since he hasn't been taking too many trial missions as of late, and he was falling behind the others. Goh nods, knowing that this was his big chance to catch up. He informs Asahi that he won't let her down, and with that, he ends the call, before quickly calling Sonia. He explains the situation, and she agrees to get the wishing star to her grandmother. He thanks her, and after the call ends, he finds a way to send her the wishing star. Once that's all done, he gets ready for the day's training. However, he soon finds out there won't be much he can do that day. He's soon reminded that today Ash faces a trial to see if he can master Gengar's Gigantamax form. He and Gengar are getting ready, and when a guy in a large hat walks in. Mustard introduces him as Avery, a former student of the Master Dojo and also a trainer wanting to become the new Psychic Gym leader. Avery states he didn't think he'd be back here after leaving it behind, but Mustard's offer of a strong trainer was one he couldn't refuse. After all, since he's an alumni of the Master Dojo and a challenger of the World Championships, he should be strong enough to handle any threat. Ash is excited by the fact that Avery is also a trainer in the World Championships, but the fact he'll be facing psychic types is something he keeps in mind. He's not worried about Gengar, but he's remaining cautious as psychic types can still have an effect on him. However, he sees this as a test in other ways. Rinto and Bede both utilizing psychic types as their ace Pokemon. This will help him see if he can combat them properly. Bee notices Ash's concern and approaches him. She tells him she's met this guy before. Last they thought, he was mostly just talk. But if he's trained, he should still give a good fight. Avery only hears the insult, though, and proceeds to use his telekinesis to levitate Bee. He starts spouting insults at her to defend himself. That is until he sees who it is. Once Avery meets eyes with Bee, he puts her down and frantically apologizes for being so rude. The others are all very surprised to see Avery's more cocky demeanor crumble to dust in front of Bee. Especially Clara, who even recognizes Avery as the dojo member who randomly left not long after she joined. Mustard settles everyone down, saying it's time for Ash to test himself. He hopes Avery is telling the truth about getting stronger, as he wants Ash to have a good opponent for his training. Avery says Mustard has nothing to worry about, and he and Ash schedule a World Championships match. The battle is a one-on-one, and it's Gengar versus Galarian Slowbro. It starts off with a clash of psychics, which throw the two poison types around. Slowbro then fires off a Scald from its cannon arm. However, Ash counters in a surprising way. by having Gengar open its mouth and drink the scalding water. Avery's jaw drops before he tries to explain why that won't work. However, sure enough, Gengar doesn't mind the scalding water it holds. Gengar even starts taunting Avery by pretending to be in pain due to the scald, before dumping the water on top of Slowbro's head. Ash tells Gengar not to get too cocky, before having Gengar disappear into the ground below. Avery tries to keep up his bravado, but in his haste, he Dynamaxes Slowbro. It does allow Slowbro to take a Shadow Ball from the depths, and get off a Max Mindstorm. But as soon as Gengar notices the Dynamax Pokemon in front of it, the gloves are off. Gengar calls back to Ash, and it's time to get huge, as Ash Gigantamaxes Gengar for the first time. Avery tries to use Max Ooze to increase his special attack, but that's easily countered by Gengar's Max Starfall. Ash then goes for a Max Mindstorm of his own, which Slowbro is unable to counter. Ash then wraps up things with a G-Max Terror, and Avery is defeated. With the battle over, Avery is left very frustrated, everything going as far as to attempt to levitate Ash off the ground. However, Mustard tells him that's enough. He orders for Ash to give him a rematch, but then he sees the Rotom drone flying off. He calls after it, saying they aren't done here. But the Rotom drone informs him the two can only battle once per day in the World Championships, as the rules of the tournament state. With that, Avery is left even more frustrated, storming out. Mustard sighs, saying he was afraid of this. When the others ask what he means, he elaborates, saying that Avery comes from a very long line of psychics, each one having been the psychic gym leader of Galar. Because of this, and most likely the pressure that came from it, he's become a lot more prideful. That pride has been hurt in the past, and it takes Avery to recover from it. Mustard had hoped his time at the dojo had done so, but he should have been more cautious after Avery left. He goes on to explain that Avery became a top student. It took him a while, but when he actually started working hard, he got a favorable position. However, Avery soon left the dojo, saying he had no use for it anymore, and that only traveling the world would help him improve now. Now with his return, Mustard sees that Avery might not have learned anything during his time at the dojo in the first place. With that, Ash runs off, going after Avery. Clara almost does something to stop Ash, but Goh stops her. Annoyed by this, Clara pulls away, but doesn't pursue Ash further. Mustard decides what's best is to leave it to Ash, and has everyone else go back to training. Ash soon finds Avery outside the doors of the dojo. Avery notices him and asks if he's just come to gloat. Ash does the opposite, asking if Avery would like to train with him. Avery looks puzzled and asks why he would do something like that. Ash says he got into a slump not too long ago, one he didn't think there was a way out of. However, working with his friends in Pokemon helped him get out of it. Avery doesn't say anything for a while, but then he scoffs, saying that he and Ash aren't friends. Ash shrugs, saying that's true for now, but they could be. Avery asks why he'd be friends with someone like him. With that, Ash fires back with a question of his own, asking Avery if he likes Pokemon. Confused, Avery says he does, which Ash laughs, saying he likes Pokemon too, and so that's a perfect reason for the two of them to become friends. Avery doesn't speak for a while. He sinks to the floor, curling up in a ball, with his head down to the ground. He asks why Ash would want a failure like him as a friend. Ash just sits down beside him, saying that everyone fails from time to time. Avery's family has probably failed more than they'd like to admit. He even goes so far as to say that he himself has failed more times than he can count. But the best thing to do is to get back up and keep trying. So Ash does just that. He stands up, and he holds out his hand to Avery, once again asking if he'd like to train. This time, Avery takes up the offer, and the two begin to work together. Avery, alongside Ash and his Pokemon, do all sorts of things to train together in order to get stronger. They battle with each other, and throughout Ash's more experienced members give Avery's tips, who in turn also help the less experienced, specifically Mudkip. The two train throughout the day, and it helps the two bond. Ash pushes Avery forward to such a degree, the two don't even realize it's dusk before they wrap it up. When they head in for dinner, Avery notices Mustard standing near the window. He's a little shocked at first, but then smiles, seeing his former teacher watching him become stronger. The group eats together, before Avery approaches Mustard. He apologizes for his arrogance, and asks if he could rejoin the Master Dojo. Mustard approves of this, but tells Avery that he's already become stronger. He just needs to understand what he can learn from his losses. The next day, Mustard makes an announcement. After seeing how his students have grown, he's decided to truly test them. Today, he will hold his final, last, ultimate trial to see which of them is ready to gain the proudest symbol representing the Master Dojo and their accomplishments. That being the dojo's secret armor. The trial they will be doing is a tournament, which greatly excites Ash. He's looking forward to all the battles he can have. However, Bee pulls him aside. She tells them that maybe the two of them should sit this out. Ash is a little confused by this. But then he sees who's Bede's making note of. Goh seems to be having a little trouble, and seems to be nervous, as if he's questioning whether he's ready to take on a challenge like this. Ash turns to Bede and nods, before going up to Goh. Chloe also joins him, and the two try and boost Goh's morale. They tell him he's worked hard in the time they've been here, so he should do his best, and they're sure he'll win. Goh doesn't think he has what it takes, though, as Ash and Bee are far stronger than him. Ash looks over to Bee, who just gives him a nod, before he tells Goh that he and Bee are actually going to train on their own. Goh sits there in shock, asking why Ash would ever miss a tournament like this. Ash smiles, and simply shrugs, saying that the two of them would end up getting in the way of the others. This doesn't really give Goh an answer, but with Ash and Bee leaving, he starts wondering whether he has more of a chance. He looks around at the other dojo members. They've been training much longer than he has, which makes him worried. But maybe he still has a chance. He's unsure, but Chloe continues to encourage him, saying he's been training here just as hard as anyone, even getting help from Ash and Bee. Goh nods, and goes out to prepare his team. Before we get into the tournament, I do want to shed some light on the training Bee and Ash will end up doing. The two will travel high into the mountains, both having their teams out and training alongside them. Bee talks to Ash about how she's noticed his team has changed a lot since the last time. Ash smiles, saying that he's just grown close to multiple Pokemon during his travels around the world. There's a lot of Pokemon he's caught, but this grouping still feels close to him. Bee stops, looking at how his team has changed. She notices the one still not fully evolved, being Scyther, Thwackey, and of course, Mudkip. So once they reach the summit of the mountain, she has Ash focus on those three. The trio of Pokemon train alongside B's Pokemon, with Scyther showing a clear gap in power between them. However, Scyther still wants to further its own training, so as it spars with different members of B's team, it develops a new move that reflects the typing of what it's trained against. Close Combat. A move which surprises both B and Ash, as neither have ever heard of a Scyther using this move before. However, Scyther's training lights a fire that pushes Thwackey and Mudkip, resulting in both growing as well. Thwackey and Ash train it in using its grassy terrain, creating ability. And soon, that results in the move Grassy Glide. Finally, Mudkip remains as the only one having not obtained anything new. Mudkip pulls off some of its different moves, like Water Gun, Tackle, and Rock Smash, which it seemed to have picked up from training with Lucario. However, while it's sparring with Grapploct, Mudkip gets trapped in an Octolock. But being pushed to its limits, Mudkip evolves into Marshtomp. Now, we return to the Master Dojo, where the tournament begins. Go goes into each battle, still very nervous. However, with the help of each of his team members, he manages to get through enough rounds to make it to the semifinals. Here he faces Avery, whose psychic types give him a lot of trouble. However, the battle actually ends with him as the victor, thanks to his Slowpoke. In the end, despite losing, Avery actually takes the loss very well, deciding to go and figure out what he needs to do to get stronger and learn from this. Mustard sees this, and is very pleased to see that Avery has grown already. Chloe also rewards Go's Slowpoke by giving it a wreath to wear on its head, similar to the wreath around Eevee's tail. With this, Go is put in the finals. His final opponent, much to everyone's surprise, is none other than Clara. Mustard allows them time to prepare, and so the two go their separate ways for now. While walking around the dojo doing some small tasks for Honey, Chloe finds Clara and overhears her. Clara is talking to her Pokemon, who are much stronger than before due to all their training, about how they're going to beat Go once and for all. She says they've gotten stronger, but Go always manages to beat her somehow, so they're going to win, by any means necessary. This makes Chloe worried, so after wrapping up what she has left, she goes out to find Go. Just before that, Honey hands Chloe a small band, saying that it came in the mail for Go. It was from someone by the name of Sonia. Chloe thanks her and heads out. She finds him at the beach, all of his Pokemon partners being with him. Chloe tries to warn him about what Clara tends to do, but Go actually doesn't seem too concerned. He says if Clara is going to win by any means necessary, then he'll just have to fight as hard as he and his Pokemon partners can. Chloe's shocked by this, thinking that sounds more like something Ash would say. However, she then hands over the package. Go looks at it and smiles, before crouching down in front of his Pokemon partners, saying he's really happy all of them have gotten him this far. He admits to being very worried before, but now he believes he actually has a chance to win and gain the secret armor. All of his Pokemon seem to be fired up, except his Slowpoke, who's just staring at the sea. Go asks it if something's wrong, only for a Shelder to jump out of the water and bite its head. Go and Chloe freak out at first, and try to separate the two, when suddenly, Slowpoke begins to glow. We cut back to the backyard battleground of the Master Dojo, and Clara is snickering to herself, staring at Go's side of the battlefield. Soon, everyone walks up and it's time for the battle to begin. Clara says she's going to beat Goh now, no matter what it takes. And with that, the finals begins. It's a 4-on-4 battle, and Clara starts off with a new member of her team, a Drapion. Goh decides to send out something new himself, that being his newly evolved Galarian Slowking. This surprises Clara, as well as a few of the onlookers of the battle. Mustard smiles, looking over to Chloe, and saying that the Galarica Twig wreath she made is the reason Slowpoke was able to evolve into Slowking. Chloe is a little embarrassed by this, not knowing that was what caused the evolution. But she just goes back to cheering for Goh. In the back of her mind, Clara believes she's got the win in the bag, all thanks to the toxic spike she put on Goh's side of the field before the battle. However, she notices that nothing is happening. In fact, she can't even see the toxic spikes anymore. Frustrated, she has Drapion go in for an X-Scissor. Slowking and Drapion clash for a while, Slowpoke using some of its powerful moves to get the edge. However, in the end, it's actually Drapion who comes out on top, knocking out Slowking with a crunch. Goh brings in Cubone next, who manages to land a few Bone Meringue hits in order to KO. However, once Galarian Weezing comes out, Cubone succumbs to a mix of toxic and strange steam attacks. Goh's getting worried now, as when Grotle comes out, Earth Power isn't even effective. Not only that, but Clara is able to pressure Grotle with Heat Wave. However, Grotle is bulky and won't give up. Soon it's pushed into activating its Overgrow ability, making Leafage do much more. But it's still not enough. That is until Goh gets an idea. As Weezing is about to go for another Heat Wave, Goh has Grotle hold the power of Leafage in the foliage on its back. Once Heat Wave is just about to hit, Goh has Grotle fire Leafage. However, with all the power collected into it, it feels less like Leafage, and more like a Leaf Storm. It is enough to push the Heat Wave back onto Weezing, and with that highly powerful combination of attacks, Weezing is defeated. This only frustrates Clara even more, as she sends in Scolipede, who finishes off Grotle with a Poison Jab. Goh is down to his last Pokemon, and so he sends in Raboot, his starter. He tries using moves like Ember and Bounce to get the edge on Scolipede. However, Clara has taught it Protect, meaning it can take a hit, and if Raboot is getting in too close, Scolipede strikes it with a Poison Jab. Raboot gets really beaten up in the process, while Scolipede barely has a scratch. Goh is starting to have trouble figuring out a way around this, but something clicks eventually. He calls for a Quick Attack to get in close. Clara once again goes for Protect, however, Goh calls for Bounce, just as the Protect goes up. Finally, Raboot gets a hit off on Scolipede as the Protect doesn't stay up for long. Goh's really happy about this and calls for Raboot to fire an Ember. Raboot kicks off the attack, only for Scolipede to blast past it and strike Raboot hard once again, this time using Smart Strike. Clara is looking to be very pleased with herself. Finally, she has the upper hand on Goh. She can finally win and prove she's better than this nobody who didn't even want to battle. It's at this point she begins to gloat a little, getting a bit cocky as she has Scolipede beat down Raboot with Poison Jabs and Mega Horns. However, during her unabashed insulting of Goh as a trainer, while also hyping herself up, she lets it slip that she placed Toxic Spikes in an effort to cheat. But that it didn't seem necessary now since Goh proved to not be strong at all. Just like she'd been wanting to prove this whole time. Then she sees something that makes her cockiness fade. Goh and Raboot, still in the battle, looking absolutely furious with her. Go calls her out for her underhanded tactics she attempted, saying she's disgraced the Master Dojo by even associating with them, if that's how she thinks. Go admits he really isn't that strong, and that he's only gotten here because of Ash B and Chloe's help and support, as well as Mustard's recent teachings. He doesn't feel like he should be where he is, but if Clara's going to talk about strength while trying to cheat to win, then she doesn't know what being strong is. Go calls for Ember, at full power, from Raboot. As Raboot begins to power up its Ember, the Fire Rabbit begins to glow with the light of evolution. The flames grow much larger in size, as Raboot grows in strength and size as well. With a powerful kick, the Ember becomes a mighty Pyro Ball, as Raboot evolves into Cinderace. Clara tries to call for Protect, but the Pyro Ball lands before she can even finish her command. Scolipede is knocked out in an instant, and Clara only has one Pokemon left. She brings out her main Pokemon, her newly evolved Slowbro, a Pokemon that Avery admits he helped her obtain. Clara, wanting to prove herself, immediately goes for Dynamax, making her Slowbro tower over everyone else. She calls for a Max Geyser in order to handle Cinderace quickly. However, Go and Cinderace manage to hang in there, just enough to take the hit. Rain begins to pour down from the sky, as Go pulls a Dynamax band from his pocket. He thanks Sonia for getting the Dynamax band ready for him, and hopes that this'll work, as he calls back Cinderace in order to use its Dynamax form. But it doesn't just Dynamax. Instead, Go's partner Pokemon becomes its Gigantamax form, much to the shock of everyone. Clara tries to use a Max Mindstorm, but Go counters with a Max Airstream, which cancels out the attack. Then he strikes, hitting off a Max Knuckle, before calling to wrap up the battle with their strongest move. He quickly checks the Rotom phone for the name, before commanding that his Cinderace use G-Max Fireball. In desperation, Clara calls for a Max Ooze, but it isn't enough when facing the combined power of Go and Cinderace. The Fireball explodes on contact, and Slowbro slowly falls back into its base form, completely unconscious. The tournament is over. Go, Chloe, and Cinderace are all happily celebrating, as Go has now won the rights to the dojo's secret armor. They're all overcome with joy, but that slowly fades as they see the state Clara is in. Tears streaming down her face, she falls to her knees. At first, she's in denial of her loss, but that changes quickly. She soon admits that Go is strong, and a talented kid like him wouldn't understand why she wants to win so badly. Mustard then approaches, telling her that she had grown stronger and worked hard since Go had gotten here. Because of that, she was able to get as far as she did. However, putting toxic spikes in and cheating wasn't right. If not for Go's Galarian Slowking, his Pokemon would have been poisoned. And while it would have possibly led to Clara winning, a victory by underhanded means is not a true victory at all. Clara seems to understand, apologizing and asking if she can make it up to them in any way. Mustard looks over to Honey, who simply says she's sure she can think of something. Now is not the time for Clara to be fully reprimanded, though. It's time for Go to receive what he fought so hard for. Mustard calls for something called a Kubfu to come out. In an instant, a small shadow leaps from the trees behind Go. It lands next to Mustard, and Go realizes it's the Pokemon he'd seen training a few nights ago. Mustard nods, saying that this is the legendary Pokemon Kubfu, the secret armor of the Master Dojo. When Go hears it's a legendary Pokemon, he thinks about what Asahi had said, and wonders if this was the Pokemon she was talking about. Goh approaches Mustard and Kubfu, asking if this is really what he gets for winning. Mustard nods, saying Goh has trained hard, and grown a lot since the first day he showed up, so it's with great honor that he bestows Kubfu onto Goh. Goh crouches down to say hello to Kubfu, greeting it as the newest member of his team. Only for Kubfu to punch him in the face. Mustard admits Kubfu is a little rowdy, so it'll be another test for Goh, to see if he can become friends with Kubfu. They all break for dinner, and Goh attempts to get Kubfu to like him more. However, throughout the rest of the day, Kubfu just seems to ignore him. He tries to get along with Kubfu the way he has with the rest of his team, but nothing works. However, after some thinking, he comes up with something. He brings out his team, and tells them they're going to go on a run in order to train. This actually gets Kubfu interested, and so it goes along with Goh and his team. The group jog across the island, with Goh taking the time to stop at a few places, just to take in the scenery. At a few places, Goh tells Kubfu what he'd been able to do there, like his capture of Slowpoke, or his late-night conversation with Ash. Even when he starts getting to places he's never been, he still takes it in and enjoys himself alongside his Pokemon. And slowly but surely, Kubfu begins enjoying itself too. Eventually, Goh finds the cave that Bee and Ash had been training in. Ash and Goh show each other what they had missed, with Ash showing off his Marshtomp, and Goh showing off his new Kubfu. Kubfu actually starts to get riled up, and so Ash suggests that they have a battle. Goh is a little surprised, but he accepts. It's a simple one-on-one between Kubfu and Marshtomp. The two have some powerful clashes of Brick Break and Rock Smash. Kubfu gets in some good hits with Aerial Ace. However, Ash has Marshtomp use Water Gun to propel itself away from Kubfu before the hit can land. Goh decides they should boost their power and calls for Bulk Up. However, Ash takes the opportunity to use Mud Shot, which blasts Kubfu back. Kubfu tries to get up and do one more attack, but in the end, Marshtomp takes it down with Tackle. Kubfu's really disappointed in this outcome, but Goh just says they'll have to train hard to get past it. Kubfu agrees, before they all leave. However, they go through a different exit than where they entered, finding a large black tower. However, they don't have time to visit it, as it's getting dark out. But it does seem interesting to Kubfu. With that, they head back to the dojo. The next day, after giving a quick report to Asahi and the rest of the Project Mew group, Goh is given a task for only himself and Kubfu. He must climb one of two towers. Goh remembers them seeing one of the towers the day before, which Mustard says that was most likely the Tower of Darkness. The other one they probably saw before, but thought nothing of it, as it would have been during their time focusing on the first trial. Mustard explains the two towers are designed to train Kubfu up to make it ready to evolve. As at the top, they'll find the scrolls which will unlock the fighting styles needed for Kubfu to become Urshifu. There's Single Strike and Rapid Strike, and it's up to Goh and Kubfu to choose which they go with. And that's where we'll be leaving things for right now. So what do you guys think? Do you like how far Goh has come as a trainer? How do you feel Goh and Kubfu will do in their next trial? And what do you think Ash will do now after his training? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!